So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. My name's Juliet Joy. I'm an educational consultant with RM and a certified Microsoft educator. Today, I've been asked to look very briefly at some of the settings and features of RM Unify, and then most of the session will be about class teams. It really is about how to manage these teams safely, how to make and create a safe environment for our young people. I'm conscious that we've got primary colleagues, secondary and special on the call this afternoon, so I'm hoping that you can take away from this what will suit your setting. As I said, if you have any questions, then please pop them in the chat or unmute yourselves and ask me the question. If I can answer it, then yes, I will do that. I'll see how we go. Okay, so the agenda for this afternoon. This is about learning. So I know we're wrapping this learning up in Microsoft Class Teams, but it is about learning. It is about the resources that you send to your young people for their learning. So that's paramount in this, how to get resources to young people. I am going to touch on safeguarding. I don't think we can talk about an online scenario without touching on safeguarding. And I know before 12 months ago, we were dealing with issues as they arose outside of school with regard to children's use of online systems. But once lockdown came, then we were asking them to take part in our online systems. So I just want to touch on that. With regard to RM Unify, I'm interested in logging in and how to do that if you're not in school, and also how you might set up a launch pad for a particular year group in your school if the student launch pad is not what you want. We'll touch on the Microsoft 365 apps, but most of the ones we're going to be talking about are the ones that we're using in Teams. So I'm going to set up a team and look at channels and muting and join codes and the files areas. I'm going to look at how to set up a meeting safely for your young people to join, and so they can't join it early or leave it later than you do. I'm going to look at what might happen in that lesson, and then looking at assignments and sending out assignments and using Class Notebook in order to send resources out. And then we'll look at the files area and the permissions on files. So that very much is the agenda for this afternoon. And it's about the pedagogy, isn't it? It's about learning. And one question I think you need to ask yourselves is your remote learning solution meeting the needs of your learners? And I know from the schools that I support, there's various systems being used: Class Dojo, Purple Mash, Teams, Google Classroom. So is the one that you are using the right one for you? And we are changing pedagogy, aren't we, here? Up until 12 months ago, every child went to school every day in the main. But that now it's now very different. And even if things return to what people are saying normal on the 8th of March, are they really? Or are we still going to have groups of children out of school who are still going to need to continue with remote learning? Within Teams, there is Immersive Reader that will help them to access some of the files, so we can touch on that. But it is about the content that you are using and choosing to share in order to consolidate progress. I know it's a big issue, isn't it? What are children learning? How are they progressing? What gaps are being left behind and things like that? So all these need to be considered. And really, this remote learning solution we've used in the last 12 months, it's not a first aid kit. It's about educational reform. Okay, so on to safeguarding. It's one thing to limit access to features in Teams, and we can do that, and I'm going to show you some of those this afternoon. But pupils really now do need to manage their own online behaviour. It's about this shared space, this environment. It is a whole class can see what happens in Teams in the main. can have the odd private space, but in the main, everyone can see. And we need to be respectful of ourselves and of everyone else in that team. We now need to make sure they are learning this life skill. Okay, so I'm just going to come out of this now. Any questions or any observations so far? No? Okay then, so I'll carry on. So I've got an account here. Okay, so RM Unify, if I'm in school, I've probably got a shortcut on the desktop, and that is great. But when I'm at home, I might not have that. So what we need to do is know how to log in. So rmunify.com will take us to the sign-in page, and then what we need to do is type in our school email address and our school network password, and that will allow us to sign in. Now in my account here, I've got a personal launchpad, my launchpad, and I've put some tiles on that. But if I go to the general launchpad, this is the one that's set up for me, and sometimes it can be a bit much. So actually what I might like to do is have my own personal launchpad. So what I'm going to do is just move over to this pupil user here, because my account, I'm an administrator and I don't want to be an administrator for this process. So this is a pupil. This is pupil 1. And if they want to make their own personal launchpad, they click on their little person here and they can add a tile. There's 2 types of tile they can add. They can add one for themselves. So any web link they want to make a tile for, they can create one, or they have access to the app library and any tiles that they're entitled to have, in other words, it would be on their general launchpad, they can add from the app library. So if we click on that, I'm just going to do a search for bite size. I want that one. Then I think I'll have the new site, so I can select that one, and I'm just going to add it to my launchpad. It's all set up, the URL is already fixed there, so now when I go back to my launchpad, it will be there as a tile that I can click on and go and visit the site. There we go. But actually it might be a tile that isn't in the app library that I want to add. So all I need to do for that is know the URL. And if I wanted to make one for Bing, then here's Bing. So all I need to do is find the URL for Bing. I don't know why I've got all that in there. So what I'm going to do is go to Bing. Up. There it is, bing.com. That will be better for me. So I can copy the URL of the site I want to be there going to. And then back in my launchpad, I add a tile from the personal tile option. So this is a tile for Bing. And can paste in the URL, and I can put a subtitle if I want to. Now you can generate a thumbnail, which will be a general image, or you can upload your own image. And if you're creating an image for this, the size that it needs to be is 300 wide and 250 tall. So I've created one that size for Bing. So I'm going to browse for it now and find it. There it is. And I'm going to open that and upload it. And then say OK. And now I've got the URL that will take me straight to that site. And I can create web links in that way on my own personal launchpad. If you want tiles added to the general launch pads, then you'll have to ask someone in school that is an RM Unified administrator, because they will have access to that. So if I now leave that pupil account and come back to my adult account, where I am an RM Unified administrator, you can see that I've got more options. I can actually edit all the launch pads for the various roles in my school. There are teachers, non-teachers, parents, and even custom launch pads, which are the ones that have been set up for particular year groups. So what I'm going to do is go into the management console of RM Unified, and down this left-hand side, we can see launch pads here. And these are the existing launch pads. And if I go to actions here, I can create a new one. Now, in here, you will have all your year groups, and you'll see that some of these have already been assigned to particular launch pads. The ones that haven't are all assigned to the general student launch pad, but we can see year 5 hasn't been assigned yet. So let's say year 5 need a custom launch pad. We can click on that, and I need to give it a name. And then I can say OK to that. So we've now got a year 5 launch pad. Now, if I go back here to launch pads, this is very important, because although I've created the year 5 launch pad, at the moment there's no tiles on it. And so actually, when year 5 click onto, when they log into RM Unified, they won't have any tiles. So it's important that whoever's setting this up knows which tiles you want adding to this. So let's go to year 5 and let's go in the app library first of all. And this is where we can see that we can add any of the tiles that already exist, plus we can add personal tiles as well. So if we just want to say the Bing one, because it wasn't in here, we can add that from here as well. I'll just search for Outlook for now, because we know that they've got access to that. And so we can click on this one, and this is one that we need to add to the launch pad, but we may need to manage it. So let's have a look and see whether year 5, all students have Outlook here, but in the year 5 launch pad, it's not assigned. So I'll need to tick that and save it, and then close that. And then now in the year 5 launch pad, I go back to launch pads and go to the general launch pads to edit them. I can see that the year 5 one, there it is. So that is how you build up the tiles that you need for a bespoke launch pad, if that's what you want to do. One other thing in here, before we leave RM Unify, in the management console, you can add an image or a logo to this. So in the branding section down this left-hand side, you can set an image for users for the background picture of their launch pad. And the size for this image needs to be 350 wide and 250 tall. So if it's too big, it won't fit. If it's too small, it'll stretch. So if I browse for one that is that size, I've got one here of children, 350 by 250. I can either have it so that it tiles, so there are multiple images on the screen, or I can actually fill the screen with that one and save it. Just out of interest, if you want to remove it, that is where you would go to remove it. So back to launch pads now, and hopefully there we've got an image there. The other thing we can do in here is in the management console, in the branding, we could add the school logo, and it actually will appear in the profile settings up here. So if we set this, for this image, it needs to be small. So 100 by 100 is about the right size for this. And open that. and save it. And again, if this one is incorrect, we can delete it from there. And now if I go back to Launchpad, oh, did I save it? Yes, I did. So now that is where your school logo will appear in this profile section here. So that's one way of customizing. You can't have different branding for different Launchpads. It's just the same image here and the same image there. So that's RM Unify. I'm going to go back to my Launchpad now. There we go. And I think I'll go into Mail in order to see my Office 365. So in Office 365, I don't know if you've looked in here, but these are the sorts of apps that you've got access to. Your Outlook Mail, OneDrive. Many of my schools are moving their files to their OneDrive, so they're in the cloud rather than on the school server, in the hope that in a few years' time they won't need a server. They're going completely cloud. We've got access to Word, Excel, PowerPoint and OneNote. Teams, of course. Forms is wonderful for creating questionnaires. There's your calendar and the stream where you can store video files. So the apps for Office 365 are all available in this app launcher here. Okay. One other thing, in your RM Unify account, in View My Files, this also will take you directly to your OneDrive. So if you click on that, that's another way to get to OneDrive. So I'm just going to close some of these windows. Okay, does anyone want to ask a question at this point, or has anything to say before we move on? Okay, so we'll continue. So I'm going to click on Teams.
Hi, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Apologies, sorry. I missed the very beginning because I was setting up my class with a live road safety lesson. Can you just tell me the benefit of the Launchpad? Because I came in a little bit. I'm so sorry to miss the beginning and having to.
That's all right. The benefit of the Launchpad is that it's a lot of the tiles that you've got on there are single sign-on for yourself and for students. So, and it also is a place where you can customize what your students need in the way of links out to websites that you regularly use.
Right, okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's fine, thanks.
All right. Do you use RM Unify currently?
I sign into it, but I don't really use it to its potential by the looks of it. But we have to. We haven't got a choice, I don't think, because we're. Or do you not sign in?
I understand. So I think sometimes it's about the fact that for the children, they've all got the same Launchpad, haven't they? So whatever year group they are, they're getting all the same tiles as everyone else. So in a way, it might be worth thinking about talking to whoever manages RM Unify for you to create these particular Launchpads for your, for each year group or for each phase, or to make it more for those children, for that age range.
Right, okay, thanks.
Okay, so I'm just moving on now into Teams, and as you can see, I've got a selection of teams, and I want to create one from scratch. I think that's the best way to show you how to do this. So I can create a team because I'm grown up here. Please notice this join a team. I'm going to show you where you can get a code to enter a team. This is useful if a particular child has got their RM Unify and Office 365 account, but for some reason is not a member of the team you want them to be joining into. So you can send them a code which allows them to pop it. They would go here onto this page and they would enter the code in there, and that would give them quick access to your team before you can add them properly. So in the team, we're going to create a team. Now, for education purposes, it is a class team that you want to create. The reason being that that has features that other teams don't have. It has the assignments area. I've had teachers get in touch and say, why can't my children access assignments? And it's because they're not in the right sort of team. So make sure you create a class team. It shouldn't take too long. You give it a name. I'll call this class C. And then it's just next. I'm not going to give it a description, but you can if you so wish. Now at this point, it's about entering the children. Now, if you've got RM Unify, then you can actually find the protocol for adding the list of children from your class from RM Unify. If you've got technical assistants in school, they would be able to help you with that. Or it is possible to add CSV files to add the children. But for now, I'm just going to add in a few pupils, so we've got some to work with. Another way you could do this is have their email addresses and copy and paste them in, and that would work as well. So 28 and pupil 2. There we go. Just have 4 for today and add them in. All right, so as you can see, now we're in this environment. We've got a menu down the left-hand side and a menu across the top. Every team begins life with a general channel. I'll explain all about that shortly. And these are all the menu options in the general channel. You won't see assignments in any other channel that you make. It is only in the general channel. Down the left-hand side, it's your personal menu. So any activity that is for you across all of the teams that you're a member of will actually be in a feed in that activity. So that these are things from yesterday or from today, things that I've done, things that are useful to me. They're all in my activity. Chat. Now, for us in the schools I support, we had reports from staff saying the children are using this chat to have personal chats. They're using calls to have personal calls across the team. Can we do anything about it? You can actually prevent young people, the students, the pupils, from using chat and calls. There are settings in the Teams policies in the admin area of Office 365. So whoever has admin rights in your Office 365 tenancy will be able to stop the chat and stop the calls. We give it back. If schools say, look, we'd like to use it, please, then we add it back. But to start with, for children, we've taken it away. I'll show you. So here's the pupil down here. This pupil was to click on Teams. Then you'll see that they don't have the functionality. It will load. Close the windows we don't need. There we go. There we go. So this is Class C, and here's Class C. You can see already it's ready for the student to use. But can you see chat and call is missing from there? That's because we've disabled it. We've also disabled Meet Now. They can't click on Meet Now and just start an ad hoc video call. That again is in the settings. It looks like it's there, but it doesn't work. So back to my adult user now. Teams, if I'm ever stuck and I don't know where I am here, I will always just click on Teams to go back to the top level, or to go, I can move these teams around so I can order them in the way I want, and I can go into Class C again because I want to be in there. Assignments we'll see shortly. Calendar, that is your personal Outlook calendar. So no one else can see that. These are events that I've set up in this user in this calendar. I'll be using that again. And the files here are my files. So this is a list of my most recently used files. So you can see that was yesterday. These were the day before. And it's all my files that live online are in this window here. If I just want to see my Microsoft Teams files, I click on there and that will bring that up. So these are the things that I've used across Teams. And if I want to see my OneDrive, I can click on there, another place that I can see OneDrive. And that's in a more, the way I'm used to seeing my files, folders and files. But that is your personal files area. The ellipses will give you access to other apps that are available, and you can find those in there. Now, I will just want to go back into my team, and it'll always take me to the general channel. You can, in this general chat, in this team here, got more options. I can manage the team. So let's see what I can do in here. I can see the members of my team. So these are the adults in the team. They are this one is an owner, that's me. My members are students, and they are just members, they're not owners. But I can add members here, and I can also, if I want to, elevate a member to an owner. Now, that's one thing I might do if I've added a member of staff, but I'm not going to do it for one of my pupils. You'll notice that the students have an option here to be muted. Now, just before half term, I had a teacher get in touch and say, the children use the posts to chat. I moderate that chat, but I don't want to be doing it over half term. Is there any way I can switch it off? This will switch it off. So what this will do is prevent students from creating posts, replying to posts, and also prevents them from writing in the chat window if you're in a live meeting with them. So it's a very useful way of moderating their involvement in the team if you're not available to moderate it. There are other ways of moderating, but this one works. If you think, oh, I've got to shut it all down because I'm not going to be available, then I would mute the students here. So it's in team, ellipses, manage the channel, in the members. And yesterday I had someone say, I can't see any members, and it's because you need to expand that list there underneath members in order to find it. Now, another thing I can do here is pending requests. Another little tale here. We had a head teacher in a panic because a child had gained admittance to the wrong team, and when we drilled down and found out why, she had actually allowed the child. Somehow he'd managed to request to enter a team, and the request was in here, and without thinking, she allowed it. If anything does appear in here, you have the option as the owner to allow it or deny it. And also, if you do allow it by mistake, you can then deny it later. You can stop them, you can send them out so they're not a member of your team. So be careful about just clicking on pending requests. So channels, at the moment, I've only got one channel, the general one. I'm going to create some more in a minute, but these will appear in here, and you can also show them, or you can remove them from being seen. So that's another way of seeing or not seeing the channels that are created. You can have up to 250 channels. So, you know, it can get busy in there. Now, in the settings, this is where you can find that team code. So if someone's come in, they need quick access to your team, go in the code team, generate the thing. You can make it full screen so they can see it. And that is the team code they will need to type into that other box that we saw at the top level of creating teams. Because members can't create teams, but they can join them, and they can join them with a code. Some other settings in there which we'll leave. Analytics will give you what's been going on, what the students have been doing in your team, and there's apps as well, but we'll just leave that for now. One nice thing you can do here is there's a little edit pen there, and you can choose a little image for this. I think I'm going to choose that photo there. And then if I can get it to scroll down, there we go, that's done. So now I've you could have a poll, really, couldn't you, and ask the children what image they'd like for their team. And so that just puts a little picture in there. Right, back to the general channel. I'm going to talk about the creation of channels now and how you can manage these. So first of all, from these more options, ellipses, I'm going to add a channel. And I'm going to add one called announcements. Because it doesn't matter what you're doing in here, at some point you're going to want to make an announcement to children. Well, where are you going to put that? And I think it might be a consideration to think about having a channel that is about announcements, and just call it announcements. Now we can, I don't know if you're aware, there is a website, which I seem to have lost now, but called, well, maybe it's on my other, no, I have lost it, emoji keys, and you can get little emojis and copy and paste them into here. In fact, on my keyboard, which is down here, my touch keyboard, I've got emojis. So actually, if I want to, I can just add one in there if I want to. So back to my keyboard, find my emojis, especially in primary, I think they just appreciate having emojis. It just cheers it up a little bit. That's all it is. It's just a cosmetic, really, but it can make all the difference to children. I do want them to automatically see this channel. I don't want it to be hidden and for them to say, can't find it, miss, haven't got it, sir. So make sure you automatically show it on as a channel and then add that channel. That channel I added as a standard channel, which means everybody in the team can see it. So what can I do about managing it now? So if I go to the ellipsis for this announcements channel and go to manage channel, I can moderate it. You have to do this for every channel. They all start being shareable and everybody can write in it and everything, but you can moderate it, turn it on, which means now you can see that allow members to reply to my messages. No, thank you. I want to give them information, but I don't want them to write back to me about it. I just want to be able to tell them something. That will stop them from being able to reply to your messages. Allow members to pin channels. No, I don't want them to do that. The other two ticks, leave them as they are, because it's not about the members, not about the pupils, but the channel won't work properly if you want to tick those. So that now is managed. You can't really see any difference, but if I go to my child user now and go into announcements, can you see here this child can start a new conversation in the general channel? Because I haven't looked at moderating that yet, but the announcements, only channel moderators can post in this channel, which means you are free to write in there, send them messages, tell them where their assignments are, tell them where the files are you want them to access, or what the work you want them to do today, and they can't reply back unless you want them to, in which case you can unmoderate, turn the moderation off. I'm going to add one more channel in here. Now that's the child who can't do that. That's good. Let's go back to my adult user and add another channel. Now I'm going to call this pupil 1. What you can do is, instead of having a standard channel that everyone in the team has access to, you can set up a private channel. And in a private channel, you specify who has access to it. So it is you. And if I put in pupil 1 and add that, something went wrong. Hang on, let's try again. Add. Oh. Why does something go wrong every day? Never mind. Pupil 1, here it is my team, but you can see that there's a lock by it. And what this means is that only myself and pupil 1 can see this channel. Therefore, if a child has a particular need for a short space of time or whatever, you might want to set up a short-term channel in order to have conversations with them or conversations with the parents or carers. It's a way of having a smaller environment. You can add multiple children to that, so it could be a group channel, but you cannot stop them chatting in here. They can have conversations and they can reply to conversations. That's the limitation of a private channel. But if it was between a pupil and their parents or carers, then you probably do want to have a chat, so that is a good thing to do. So standard channels can be moderated so children can't reply. Private channels can't. So what does the general channel do? This one's slightly different again. So if we manage the general channel, by default, everyone can post messages, which means everybody can reply. But if I change it to only owners can post messages, then actually only myself and other owners of the staff would be able to put messages on there. However, the children can still reply to those messages. So the general channel is not a good one to use to send information to, which is why I've suggested an announcement channel that you can moderate in a more secure way. So the general channel, I would leave that as members only owners can post, apologies. But in terms of what goes on in this channel, I would not be adding things in here. I would only be accessing the files, the menu from the top in the general channel, not using it for conversations. Because if I start a conversation here, my children will be able to reply to it. And of course, once they can reply, they can have any conversation they want in there. So we need to be mindful of that. So that is setting up, that's looking at your private menu and also your channels and the setting up of those safely so that you know if and when the children can be posting messages and having conversations with each other. There's a files area which I'm going to touch on later, and then there's assignments. So before I just move on to setting up a safe meeting or lesson, does anyone have a question or want to say anything at this point? Okay, righto, then we'll crack on. So inviting children to a meeting or a lesson. And I know in many of my schools, especially in primary, they haven't been using it for lessons exactly. They've used it as a way for the children to socialise and see each other. So that's what that environment has been for. But you do need to set it up knowing that they can't join the meeting before you, because who's going to be moderating that if you're not there? And can they carry on the meeting after you've left? So we need to make sure that we can sort all this out. So I like to create my meetings in my calendar, in my Outlook calendar. The reason I like to do that is because I know then I've specified it as a team meeting. It's an online meeting. And so children aren't going to be saying, oh, can't get in, miss, or what, why can't, well, we got a meeting today, because it is an invite rather than a meeting. So here's my Outlook calendar. So what I'm going to do is set up a meeting for tomorrow afternoon. And double click that. And we'll have it as a maths lesson, shall we? That's one. I'm going to put the date by it because I have so many events going on. I need to keep tabs on them. So that's that. Now I need to put my children in here. Now what I would do is I would have a list in Word. Here it is. I would have a list of all my children's email accounts, and I've got that for use whenever I need it. So I've got listed the children and their email accounts. I can just copy that and I can just paste that into there, paste it in, or Control V, whichever suits you best. So now I've set that up to send out to my whole class. I'm going to want to need an online, I'm going to set the time, so we don't be doing it at 4 o'clock. We'll have it at, let's have it from 1:30 till 2:30. And I want an online meeting, so I'm going to have a Teams meeting. And in here you can write and tell them what we're going to be doing in this meeting and any other information you want to give out. You can set up a recurring meeting if you want to, but I'm just going to settle for this one. Now, before you send it out, just check in the response options here at the top. This is another reason for using this way of doing it, because in here you can hide the attendee list. Now the children can probably guess each other's email addresses, But say you were setting up a meeting with parents, you've got their email addresses, but you don't want to be spreading their email addresses between them. So actually hiding the attendee list will prevent them from seeing each other's email addresses. Again, you're keeping the environment safe. And now we send that out. Now, just one more job. We can't leave this. We have to just double click this invite and check on a few things. You might need to scroll down at this point and you want to be looking at the meeting options. If you just leave this event as it is, children can join the event now. As soon as they've got it in their calendar, they can click on it and join it because they are members of the same tenancy as you, and I'll show you why. In the meeting options, the default for this meeting, when it opens up, there we go. The default is people in my organisation and guests can bypass the lobby. Today, you all have to be let in the lobby because you don't belong to the same tenancy as me. But in school, all your children will belong to the same tenancy. So in order that you keep them waiting in the lobby till you are ready to let them in a safe environment, click on Only Me. If you do this for a reoccurring event, every reoccurring event will keep these settings that you're setting now until you change them. So let callers bypass the lobby, no. Announce when callers leave or join, yes. Who can present? This might be another one you want to change. Do you want them? I'll just say at this point, you can change these settings again when you're in the meeting, but this is the one for setting it up. But I think what I'm going to do with that one is just have Only Me. Or if I'm working with a colleague who's going to be in the meeting with me, I might specify that person to be a presenter. But at the moment, I'm going to have Only Me. Are you going to allow attendees to unmute? Yes, that's what I've done for yourselves this afternoon. You can unmute and talk to me if you want to. And allow meeting chats. That's enabled, but you can disable that if you want to, so they can't type in the chat window. That's up to you to make that decision. And now when you've saved that, that now means the children can't join this meeting until you let them into the meeting. So that's kept them safe. Now at the other end of the meeting, and this is difficult for me to show you, but I'll just explain. On your Teams menu, you'll have either a red box with a telephone alongside it where it says leave, or in the ellipses, in the more options, you'll have a leave meeting or end meeting. You must click the end meeting when you finish your meeting. Otherwise, they can carry on talking when you've left. So you must end the meeting, not just leave it. And I know it works because I was in a meeting with the staff, a school staff the other week, and they wanted to carry on without me. So I just said it was my meeting, but I didn't end the meeting. I let them carry on. And I went back in to see if they were still there, and they were still there. So you must make sure you don't just leave a meeting, you end it properly. And if they're still there, it will throw them out. So at least you know they can't continue without you. So these are the features of keeping a safe, setting up a safe meeting and ending with a safe meeting as well. Okay, does anybody want to say anything, or got a question or anything at this point? No? Okay. In that case, then I'll go back to my team. Close these windows. All right, so files I'll do at the end, but for now I'm going to, oops, it's coming in late. There we go. Just to reiterate, we just had a late joiner. If you write in the chat that you would like the video at the, when it's ready to be sent out, we'll send you out a copy of this webinar. Okay, so where are we now? We're in our team and we're looking at assignments. Now, assignments, you can send out any number of types of resources, links, Word documents, PowerPoints, images, all sorts of resources you can send out. But one thing I'd like you to think about using is the class notebook. If you've not used it before, it might seem a step too far, but actually it is a really good way of keeping your resources together in one place. And also, as you create a lesson and put the resources onto a page, you can then send that page out to pupils in order to complete the work, rather than them having a Word file that they have to send back into you. So I'm just going to show you how to set up a class notebook. It's worth knowing how to do it. Now, the other thing with class notebook is that there's one for every team, but you may not want more than one notebook. So actually what you can do when you set it up, you can set it up from an existing notebook. Now, this is great if you've got multiple teams. It's also great if you want to move the notebook from last year's team into this year's team. So I'm going to do it from an existing notebook. Every notebook has, in the class team, has 4 sections. If you haven't seen this before, the new section is the teacher only section. So the collaboration space, those sections and pages that you set up, students can write on those, so you can give those out for them to work on. The content library is read only for pupils, so they can access the material but they can't change it. Teacher only is just for you, so they won't see this at all. So it's just for you to keep your work in. And then the student notebooks, every child has their own little notebook and they don't see each other's, but you see all of them. And in fact, if you've given them a task to do at a particular time of day, you can go into your team and go between the notebooks and watch them working in real time. You can't do that if you send them a Word document. So that's another reason why using a page from your class notebook could be a good way to see what's happening. So student notebooks. Next. Now, the only content that you really probably want to take over is anything that is read only in the content library or you put in your teacher section. I'm only going to add my teacher section material. And it's asking me which notebook I want to take it from. And I know class W is the master. So the one in class W is the one I want to use. So I want the teacher only section. I don't know why it's asking me again, but it is. So I know I've got these areas in my notebook. I've got an area for my English lessons, maths, reading, science, topic, and the setting up space. So I'm going to tick all of those because I want to carry them all across into my new notebook. At this point, if you were setting up a fresh notebook, it would ask you, what topics do you want? What sections do you want in your class notebook? And it's worth having to think about that, or even having some sections that perhaps aren't labelled properly, ready for you to use if you do need to set up a new subject. Now, this is where I set up the areas for the children's notebooks. So it's a good idea, really, for these to be the same as mine, because I want to send it. So we're going to have science, if I can spell, science lessons. We're going to have English lessons. We'll have maths lessons. We'll have, I might want them to know particularly about reading. I'm going to have a topic section because then everything that doesn't fall into one of the categories can go in there. And most importantly, I think, is to actually add a section that is just for them, and it's called My Notebook or My Workbook, perhaps best. So this is an area where the child can think, oh yeah, that's where I can scribble, that's where I can have ideas. You will be able to see it, but they can work in that rather than working in the areas that maybe are for the lessons that you're going to be doing with them. So let's create that notebook now. It shouldn't be taking too long. While that's happening, actually, I think I might go and start looking at assignments. So we'll let that cook and get ready. So how do I send assignments to pupils? How do I get that workflow between me and them that I can send the work out, they can send it back to me, I can mark it, I can send it out, they can send it back. But let's get started on an assignment for now. So if we create this assignment, I can have a quiz, so that would be a form. So if I want to do a quiz, I can do it from an existing one. So as long as I'm a member of a team that has got an assignment in, I can choose that assignment if I want. This is great for team teaching. So if you are a member of each other's teams, then you can share your resources across those two teams. I'm going to set an assignment. I'm going to give it a title, and we're going to do a light lesson. I'm going to date it because, again, I get confused with which I've set for which day. So put the date on it, then I know where it is. You'll need your own numbering system for the way you send out resources, and that's up to you really to decide how you want to look at that. You can add a tag, so I think I'll put science, and then I know I've tagged that. The instructions for this, I'm going to leave that for a minute. I'll come back to it when I've added the resources so I know what it is I want them to actually do. Let's just have another look. I can save this now and it will go into my drafts. So it'll be there for me to go back to when I need to carry on with it. And even if I left it, it would save in the drafts. I'm just going to look in Class Notebook now and see if this has finished creating yet. There it is. And the important bit on this screen really is where are all the sections, and they're in this little bookshelf here. There we go. And you can see that I've got all my pupils in here. They only see their own, but I can see them all. And here's my teacher only section. Here's my science section. And here's my light lesson 1. So what I've got on here is an image. That's an image that I put on there. I've got an audio. I don't know whether you can hear that. Please write down 4 sources of light. Can you hear that? So this is where you can use in your class notebook, you can use voice to ask questions. I've got another audio there to ask them to write down what a light source is. This is a video, so they can click on here to view the video. You can see that long video link in there. And also there's a voice command there to tell them what to do. And in fact, down below, what we've got here is a PDF file. So if you send a PDF out, children can't edit it because it's a PDF. But if you put it onto a class notebook page, then when you insert a file, if you choose the insert file printout option, you can search for a PDF, add it in, and what it'll do is it will put that little icon there, like key vocabulary. And the reason why it's down there is because I've moved it down here, light key vocabulary. So this is a PDF showing on here. Now, if they've got a touch screen, they'd be able to write on that. I haven't got a touch screen, but I can get beneath it and type, so I can actually get around this document and start writing on this screen here. There you go. So this is the page I'm going to send out to children, just so you know. So back in assignments, where did it go? Nothing assigned yet. It's in my drafts, so I can just go back to it and add resource. So let's see what sorts of resources we can add to this assignment. So as I said, if I've spent the time sorting out my lessons in class notebook, I can just send that page. I'll go and find it in my teacher section. It's in my science section, and it's like lesson 1, and I attach it. It will show up for children in their science section, well, where I send it. So I'm going to send it to the science section of their notebook, and that is where it will show up. So that's done. Now I think I'll add some other resources. So I'm going to add a web link. There we go. So I've got that web link down here, very long web link. But if I copy it, Control C, and if I paste that in here, that is all in there. And so it is light video title for them, and I can attach that link for them to access that. Now I can also, if I want to, send them a Word document to do their answers on. So earlier I created a document called Light Sources. I'll show you what it looks like. Here. Where is it? Maybe I put it in there, I think. Light source. Natural, no, it's that one. Natural light source. Oh, it's that one. Sorry. So I'm going to show you this. So it's, I haven't shown you, but that's light sources. You'll see it in a minute when we open it up. I've attached that one and done that. So that's a Word document. Now, you need to check when you add any resources here that the student can edit it, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. So the class notebook will always be editable because it's gone to their notebook. A video generally is just there to open online, so you're fine. But a document goes in as can't edit, which is really ridiculous. Although some documents you might not want them, it might be for information only, but this one I do want them to edit their own copy, so make sure you change it to edit your own copy. So what I might get them to do is, so the instructions in here would be, please watch the video, please use the Word document to answer the questions. Ends and ends. And then a third one would be, please complete your notebook page. Okay, so those are the instructions for this assignment. I'm sure you can be more flowery than that. Points, I might want to give out 100 points for this assignment, and I can add the criteria for those points by adding a rubric. Now I can start from scratch on this, or actually I've got one that I did earlier, so I'm just going to use this one here. I'll show you what I've done. So you give it a title, you make sure that it's going to give out points, description if you need to. You've got the criteria here, and here you've got the criteria. You can have as many columns as you want. I've just got exceeding, expected and emerging. So I know 4 light sources, and if they're natural or artificial, I know 4 light sources. I know some light sources. So children will see this rubric. You can have as many lines of criteria as you need. So you can have an English criteria as well as a science one. So the rubric is very important for them to know how to get the points, really. I'm not going to put the points here because actually the points I give out for the assignment will be based on the whole assignment rather than just one. So let's go attach that. So that's the rubric. Over here we can see that we've got like lesson 1. Now we'll see who we are going to assign to. So we can assign it to just the children in the class at the moment, not future children, although you can. And in here you can decide, no, sorry, back up. Up here you can assign it to another class. So if you team teach, again, you can pick off another class to send this assignment to. No problem with that, as long as the owners are members of each team. You can also send it to all the students, or you can pick off which ones you need to send the assignment to. So that can be useful for a smaller group. Then you'll need to set a due date for it to come back. But actually, you can also here schedule when this assignment goes out, because I can either save this assignment, which means I need to go back into it in order to assign it. And if I assign it, it'll go straight away to the children. Whereas if you schedule this, say you've got 5 assignments, say for 5 days next week, then schedule them for 1 each day, or whatever you want to do. So scheduling there a due date, so you give them however many days you want to give them to do the assignment, and you can add a close date, and that means then their assignment will not come to you to be marked. So it's best not to have a close date. We wouldn't want to turn any child's work away, I don't think. So I'm not going to fill that in because I need it to go straight away, but that's where your scheduling is. And then if nothing else is important in here, this bit is. This is going to default and go to the general channel. If it goes to the general channel, there'll be a message in there which will allow children to comment back. So we don't want to send it. And in fact, actually, what I should have done is created a channel for science. So actually, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a channel, and I'm going to call it science. A standard channel which will show up for everybody. Add that. There we go. And now back in my general channel, which is the place where I can find assignments, what will have happened is it's still in drafts. There it is. It will have updated. It's got all the resources in. That's fine, just to show you you don't lose it. But if I edit this now, I should have the opportunity to not quite, it hasn't quite got there yet, has it? Let's see if we update, refresh the team, whether it'll appear. Oh dear. Let's see what happens when it comes back. There we go. So back into assignments, back into draft. And see now whether the channel is available for me. There it is. Okay, that didn't take too long really. So we can send it to the science channel. I don't know whether we need to put a time there. It seems to need a time, but that one doesn't make much sense. So you probably want it by 4 o'clock at the end of the day, because it does actually show up somewhere. So I'll just change that to 4, and I'll assign this work now. We'll save it as it is, and it's assigned. So it's not in the drafts anymore, it's in the assigned. And what we need to be doing is going to the child's account. So here we are, it's pupil 1. And see if this is going to turn up for us. Oh, there we go. That was assignments down the left hand side. So this child has clicked on, there it is, look, it's come already. Class C, science, assignment mentioned. So it's loading up teams. We're going to the science area. Then this is the light lesson 1 for today. So this is the child now, just so you can see up there, it's pupil 1. And they've got, can't reply to that. Oh, we can reply because I haven't moderated this channel, have I? Ah, right, okay. So I'm just going to go back in here and manage this channel. It is important that you set these channels up and remember to do this at the time. Okay. But so now, see, it's just done it in real time. So the child can't post back now, which is great. I just want them to view their assignment. Okay, now here next to handing, you've got immersive reader. So if we click on that, it will read, click the button here.
Light lesson 125022. Due the 26th of February 2021, 16 o'clock. Instructions. Please watch the video. Please use the Word document to answer the questions. Please complete your notebook page.
So that's got what it's telling them to do in this assignment. And so there's the video to watch, which I'm not going to do, but there we go. There's the video working, so that's good. So there is a light sources document, a Word document. The reason why I did that is because immersive reader is here as well. So actually, in a Word document.
Light sources. List for natural light sources here. 1, 2, 3, 4. List for artificial light sources here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So that's reading that Word document, and we can use the edit document here and put the answers in. So I'm just going to go sun. I'm not going to do too many, so post. TV. So we would complete that, and then when we've done our work, we close. I'm not going to hand it in yet because I've still got some other work to do. So I'm going to look at light lesson 1 in my notebook. So I've been told to have a look at this as well. So there's the images of light sources, and I can, because this is notebook, I can use drawing tools in here a lot easier than a Word document. So a bulb is artificial, a sun is natural, so I might want to label all of those. I can listen to the video recordings. I go back to my pointer tool for my drawing tool, and so I can click on the audio and listen to the audio. Please write down 4 sources of light. I can watch the video from there if I wanted to, and I've also got that key vocabulary. So my teacher's got all those resources on a page, and now I've got them all in a page with my answers on, and actually it's in my class notebook to stay there. So when I finished, I can close that. I can see that there's 100 points possible. I can see the rubric for that, and I know I'm not going to get 100 because I haven't. Well, actually, I have done 4, so I might get 100 points. Who knows? Depends what Miss thinks. Now, also, every assignment allows a child or their parents or carers to add work that can be sent back with the assignment. So that could be a document, it could be an image of the child working. So there is facility there for more work to be sent back than what is created on the documents that you've sent out. And so if I now hand that in, I get an animated GIF as a thank you. And I'm going to go back now to my teacher area. And see that actually if I go, this is why I date them, because I can pick out which one I want. The order of the way these appear back to you seem completely random to me. So what I tend to do is date things and I can easily find it. But this is now the assignment I sent out. I can see that one pupil has handed it in. So if I click on that assignment, these are the pupils' names. I can see whether they've handed it in or not. I can also see if they've opened the assignment as well. So that's useful information that they've actually had a look at it, even if they haven't done it. I can search for a student if I've got a long list. So I'm just going to go in and see what pupil 1 has managed to do. So those are the 2 documents with work on. He hasn't sent the video back because it's not needed. But I've got that there and I can mark that. I can write on this, I can edit this document as well. So if I want to make comment on the document, I can do that. I might want to use a different font colour. I'm not going to use red, but I can use a different font colour just so they know that that's I'm inquiring as to do they know any more. I can enter feedback here, and the feedback that goes on here across both of these work documents will also be available in Immersive Reader. So when the child listens to it again to listen to this, what the assignment is, the feedback I write in here will be spoken back to them. So I've actually done 4. Say you are expected. Well done. I'm not going to put what I always got, could do better. So see if we can. And I can decide how many points I want to give out. So I'll give 90. Now I can return this back to the child and close it. And you can see it's disappeared back. It's disappeared from here because back in the child's view, if they view the assignment now, they get the chance to work on it again and hand in again. So I'll just show you that Light Sources has got, playing up. It should be there. Might have to wait for it to come back. But I can see I've got my my marks there, and I've got Immersive Reader again to read out.
Light lesson 125.022. Due the 26th of February 2021, 16 o'clock. Instructions.
And you can see here that we've got the feedback as well. So not only is it saying what to do, but it's giving the feedback on that you've written for that assignment. So that very much is a quick whistle-stop tour of assignments. And the assignment can go backwards and forwards between yourself and the child as many times as it needs to, depending on the work rate. And if I go back into Teams and back to the general channel, I did want to just mention about the files area. Every channel has a files area, but in the general channel, there is a files area with a special folder in it. Special because this folder is set to be read only for the children. So anything you put in here, you can folderize and you can put as many documents as you want in those folders, and they will all be read only for the children and read write for yourself. Any folder or document you put outside of this folder is fair game to be manipulated, edited, changed by anyone in the team. But there is a way around that. So you can open any files area from any channel in SharePoint. Now, I'm not going to do SharePoint in any detail, but for the files, I think it's important because, okay, so we are in the general channel. We cannot see the class materials folder because it's here. But if I was to create a folder, so I've gone back to Teams for a minute, and I'm going to create a folder called Science, because it might be that I want to put the work for them to access in here. So I'll have a Science folder. There we go. Now at the moment, anything I put in there, they could change, they could delete. But in SharePoint, I have control over this folder and any other folder and any other document that I want to put in here. So I can go to the vertical ellipses here and manage the access. So what I can do, don't worry too much about visitors, but the members are the children in your team. And I can change the access on this folder so that everything in it is only viewable. In other words, it's like making another class folder. So now they won't be able to remove anything from here. And knowing this little part of SharePoint enables you to set up document folders and to manage the permissions in a better way. So here's the class materials folder. There's nothing in it, but that's where it actually is. And one other thing I want to show you in SharePoint, and then I'm not going any further in here, in the site contents, once you've done an assignment, there will be a student work folder. And in there will be all the work that goes from you to the child, back to you, back to the child. And in submitted files, you'll see all the pupil names and the work that they have been doing. There we go, there's that. And also in working files, this will be when they are again working on the files. So that's another way of seeing the site contents in the student work, is another way of seeing where their files are. As I said, their work, their class notebook work will be in their class notebook. So when they're in their team, then they click on class notebook. Then what we should find in here in the science section is the page that you sent them. So they have got access to that. Pupil 1, can't see any other pupils in case you were wondering. There's the science and there's like lesson 1. So you've permanently put that page into their notebook. So they've got it for revision, haven't they? That's one way of doing it. Other files that they are sent and create in assignments actually can appear in this files area here. So eventually their other files will be in their files area here. The work that they've done in their assignments will be there. So one thing I didn't do, I'm just going to do it quickly. If you're not an RM Unify user and you are an Office 365 user, it could be, how do I access Office 365 if I haven't got a shortcut that I have at school? Well, office.com might send you to a list to which you can pick off office.com. If you've been logged in before, it comes back. So what I'm going to do is sign myself out of here and close the browser. And let's see if we can see what page we're likely to get if we just ask the internet to take us to office.com. There we go. So it's welcoming me back because it knows about me. I can switch to a different account, but actually now that is the account I want to use. So I can just sign in and it'll come up with my password, which it's remembered. And it's just checking I want to stay in. And so here I am now in Office 365. Here's the app launcher if I want to see all the apps. And so that's how I can get to Office if I need to get to it from the web rather than from an app or from RM Unify. So I'm just going to bring this back now. There we go. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. There we go. Hello, am I back? Can you see me? I don't know if anyone's got any questions. I've covered everything that was in this webinar this afternoon, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Or if you have any questions and you want to write them in the chat, that will be acceptable. That's fine. That's lovely. If you want to let me know how it's gone for you, whether it's been useful or not, that would be useful for me. It's very quiet out there. If you want access to the video, if you can just write that in the chat, and then we'll send out the video to you if you're interested in that. If there's anything you want to say. I know we had a late arrival, so we will send you the video. Okay. Oh, we're a few minutes early. Anything anybody wants to know? Anybody want to ask anything? No? Okay then, right. Well, I hope you found it useful. The intent really was to show you how to set up your team, how to set up that environment, and how to make sure you're keeping everyone as safe as you can. And as I said at the start, really, this is about children managing their own behaviour online. But we need to teach them that just like we teach them everything else. So I hope it's been useful. I hope there's been things in there that you can take away and use with your own classes. And I'm going to say good afternoon and bye-bye. Bye now.